Mhm.
Hi, I'm Kristin Clark, and I'm here with Bobby Hood. And gosh, Bobby, we are
Mhm.
talking about part two of helping our teens make tough decisions today. And it's all about considering whether college is the right path for them, yes or no. So this
Mhm.
topic is going to be can get a little bit big. Like it's kind of a important topic in a household.
Absolutely. I mean, we've spent a long time, here doing college planning untangled. It's just sort of the automatic assumption, oh, everybody's going to go to college, and even in the time since we started doing this a couple of years ago, I have a family member who chose to go a different route and is so happy because of it, and I'm really proud to see that thoughtful decision being made. So it's something you have to think about because it's so easy to to start galloping down the path and suddenly find yourself, in a place where you wouldn't be in the right place for you.
Yeah, I mean, so, we've talked about this in the past for sure that, we work with students that in their families, this child, was born and they're 5 pounds, 6 ounces and they're going to college. It's just this assumption.
Right.
And, we talk about it. And in my household too,
Mhm.
throughout those formative years, I'm sure comments were made about, well, when you go to college and when you grow up and, and college is so much fun and gosh, I wish I was you. And, all those conversations that you just kind of take for granted and you
Mhm.
say, and this kid is now in high school and going, well, I guess the next step's college.
Right, and they may have reservations about it, but they're scared to say anything about it because, you've been giving them, you know, jerseys and sweatshirts from
Absolutely. And
your
going and
favorite
going.
college your whole life.
Yeah, and for us, like, we were visiting my husband's alma mater, TCU, and going to football games and,
Mhm.
yeah, so, I mean, these kids have this thought that, yeah, I'm supposed to go, it's the next thing, and you're right, if they're confused by that, it can be a tough subject to bring up at home.
Oh, absolutely, and it's not just, it's on that note, like I have a family member who uh felt very pressured to go to the alma mater college of their parents, even though they didn't feel comfortable at that college, and so ended up like deciding to leave during the second semester and then
Well,
having to take, lose that time and then go and enroll and transfer in the college they actually wanted to go to, and then it ended up taking 5 years to get done, and right, and that's all because this conversation didn't happen. Right.
absolutely, and when you bring up those kind of things, Bobby, I always have to throw my facts out there for
Hmm.
families.
Yeah.
And guys, anybody that's listening today, if you've got a question or a comment about what we're talking about, please throw it in the chat. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you during
Hmm.
this. But you bring up, these kids feeling like they have to go. We know that 30% of kids
Hmm.
don't return to college after freshman year. That's a fact.
Absolutely. Yeah.
40% of kids don't graduate at all. Okay. And guys, that's a big deal because you think about what that year looks like for them, right? For that 30%
Hmm.
that don't go back after freshman year. And it's a tough year.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, having, I guess, this conversation, we'll get to the point. Having this
Hmm.
conversation before they go to college about what do you truly want from your life, from your career path? What does that look like for you?
Hmm.
Right? And then they can decide, to get to that place, what's the best route? There are so many ways that you can get educated after high school
Hmm.
to be able to get a career. You've got college and university, which we all have talked about, community college. You've
Hmm.
got taking a gap year. You've got apprenticeships. You've got trade schools. You've got the military. There are so many
Hmm.
different ways that you can go about this. Why not get clarity on that before your kids spend so much time and energy?
Absolutely. And it's interesting to put it that way too, because like, I mean, it's so many examples of all these things coming just right from my family. And I mean, and in my family, it seemed like, it was like always, oh, of course, everybody's going to go to college. But then just in within 1 degree of separation from me. I mean, my father went in the military to get money to go to college, and that's something that happened a lot in the past, but it still happens today, right? And so
Yes,
I've got all of these different examples, and just in one family, I think it's really easy to have blinders on and think, oh, well, in our family, every single person goes to traditional 4-year university, but that's not true of any family, really. And you see it, right? And so if you don't consider it, it's going to happen to you anyway, probably, just only after you've spent a year or two of tuition, right?
exactly. Yeah.
And-
And then, and again, you're right. I mean, this doesn't just happen, right?
right.
It's kind of like if it wasn't the right place for you anyway,
Mhm.
it won't be the right place,
I think,
So
yeah, I think there's another thing too, which is, spending a lot of time with students who are, in high school right now. I think that students today have different attitudes about this than we do. I think for a lot of them, it does not seem natural to immediately go to college, right? I think the idea of gap year, of waiting until you're mature enough, of going a different pathway, of finding your own career that doesn't involve college at all, I think that's something that sounds a lot more natural to them, perhaps, than it did to us 30 years ago, And so I think the student probably is going to be a lot more receptive to the conversation than you think. I think everyone should have it, right? No matter what, the question should be, okay, what do you want to do? And what will prepare you for that? And is college the thing that will prepare you for that, right?
yes. Oh, absolutely. And Bobby, I'll tell you, with everything that's been going on over the last 2 years,
Mhm.
a gap year, I think, is more prevalent than ever, and
I've had
being a
multiple
positive
students tell
step.
me that they've decided to do a gap year, right? They said,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, I'm not going to do the tutoring right now. I'm going to do a year off." Right?
Yeah, and like I look at the last week and then what we're walking into this week with the storms coming up again.
Yeah.
Last week in Texas, and I know this is happening across the country, but schools were shut down for 3 days because of
Mhm.
COVID, and most of it was because we don't have enough teachers. They're sick
Sure.
and they can't teach. So you've got that. They were 3 days off. We're going into this week and we've got weather coming up. So
Mhm.
my expectation is they'll probably have another 2 or 3 days off, right?
Yep.
Probably 2 days. And you look at what their experience has been, and it's so different from
Mhm.
anybody else's. So, I mean, I just think that as far as parents, hey, Lisa, glad to
Mhm.
have you. As parents, we've got to really consider that and go, what is the best step as far as mental, you know,
Mhm.
anxiety, all these things that these kids just may not be prepared.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of those things is like students I've seen that, like, both in my family and outside, like and students I've been tutoring this year. I mean, part of the decision is I'm not emotionally ready right now. And with the way the world has been the last few years, that is a completely normal thing to happen. And say, I'm not going to be successful if I try to go this fall. Well, then you can wait a year. You can
Yeah.
wait a year and do something else. You can go to community college for a year, then you can transfer. And, with a lot of places that you might want to go, like, for instance, I mean, the common example in Texas is Texas A&M and M and the University of Texas with their rules for automatic admission for students in the top, GPA percentage in the top, 10% of the class. If you're outside of that, then you probably are going to have a hard time getting in unless you have a really stellar, like, SAT or ACT score. But there is another pathway, right? Go and spend a year at community college, live near home, learn learn those study skills that maybe you don't know yet.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Learn those study skills, get good at it, go and get yourself a 4.0 in community college for a year, and then say and talk to your friends who are there in school in college, and go visit them a little bit and then see, okay, is this right for me? Right. And then you can
Right.
transfer there and be very successful. And I know so many people who have done that, who would have crashed and burned if they had, gone straight in, especially with an enormous state school. It is just so easy to get lost, and we all know that, right? Uh, Going from, a place where you know everyone to this enormous place, it's not something to be ashamed of to not be emotionally prepared, right? Especially in the climate we've had the last few years. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And,
it's something to consider.
and let's talk a little bit about, that year that somebody does go to school and they're not prepared. We've got money at stake. We've got emotional
Yeah.
well-being at stake. What else? We've got time, just time, that
Oh,
they're spending,
absolutely.
yeah,
Right.
doing maybe something that, go ahead.
If you go spend a few years in a place that you shouldn't be, miserable, right? You're wasting years of your life when you could have been off learning the skill or whatever, or starting the career that's really going to make you happy. And I mean, saying that as for myself, I was not until I was in my 40s that I found a career that I actually enjoyed. And it's because I never asked any of these questions, right? I just said, oh, I'm supposed to go to college. So I went to college. I didn't really know what I wanted to major in, changed my major several times. Then I thought, well, okay, I guess I'll be an accountant. Okay, I guess I'll go to law school. Okay, then waste 3 more years, go and join the legal profession, realize I do not want to do it. I don't enjoy this career. I was
And
40
Bobby,
years old before I ever figured that out.
how did you feel during that time as well? Because I think
Oh,
that we kind of discount this, that it's like, oh, these kids will figure it out. How did you feel when you were kept hitting walls where you're like, it isn't right, it isn't right, it isn't right?
it was miserable. Well, and this is that part of that thing. And this is where students today may understand this a whole lot better. But, you know, the way I understood it growing up is that you're not even supposed to enjoy a job. The idea of enjoying a
Yeah.
career was foreign. I mean, my father is from, was born in 1931, and his attitude was you get a job and then you show up and you're the first one there and the last one to leave, and you do it forever and you advance. And and there is no question of enjoying it. You
Bobby,
just do your job, right?
I got to tell you a story. You just hit a vein for me so much. I was talking to one of my students in my class. As you know, I do a class helping students pick a career path in the right major. And we were talking, and I said, wow, you want to go into our landscape architecture.
Mhm.
And he also told me that he loves to play golf. He's like, oh my gosh, I play golf anytime I can. I was like, wow. I'm like,
Yeah.
Noah, what if you could
Mhm.
build golf courses or plan golf courses? He goes,
Mhm.
would that be too much of a good thing, Kristin? And I was like, oh, that's the point. And I'm like, how much fun would you have being in that atmosphere all the time? Yeah, and he had that same thought, right? It was like, is it supposed to be fun? Am I supposed to enjoy this? And I'm like, yes, that's the whole point of this, right?
Right. And you saw his eyes light up and like, oh, well, I would actually like to do that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
someone's got to design those things. And I imagine it's a fairly, nice job. And,
Lucrative. Yeah.
and my cousin Lisa is the head landscape designer at the University of Texas in Austin. It's an amazing job. It's
Oh, I
so
got to
neat.
get Noah in touch with her then. That would be perfect.
It's so neat. It's such a neat job.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And yeah, and she always loved being outdoors, and she had a similar pathway to mine. She had all these jobs in offices. She was just so miserable. And so she, in her, I think in her 40s, went and got a master's degree, and changed pathways and got a master's degree in landscape architecture
Yep.
and started that career 20 years on, and now is the head of that department at the University of Texas. I mean,
So I go
it's
back to this,
crazy.
Bobby, talking again about should they go to college or not, or should they
Mhm.
follow their dreams and their passions and the things that they enjoy? Why not start having these conversations now? I get a lot of dads, they're like, Kristin, come on. Can these kids figure out a career path at 17? And my
Right.
answer is always, when should you start? When should you start thinking about it? You got to start a job soon. Why not start thinking about it now versus waiting until you're 20 or 40 or,
Mhm.
having to go back to college 20 years later because you're like, that's really what I really want to do.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. It's an old thing. I guess it was from, I don't know, when I was a kid. I saw this in the Dear Abby column or whatever. But somebody said, hey, I'm 50, I'm thinking of going to med school because I would really love it, but should I do that because I'll be 54 when I get out? And the reply was, of course, how old will you be in 4 years if you don't go to med school?
Right.
Right? Like,
Yeah. It's like
right.
start
And
now. Yeah.
right, why not go ahead and figure these things out now? Because otherwise, yeah, you'll be doing what I did, what my cousin did, what so many people did. I mean, I have a cousin who many years ago had been a doctor for 20 years, hated being a doctor, and went and opened a Taco Cabana franchise location, and now then owned several Taco Cabanas and was much happier than being a doctor. Like, there are all sorts of pathways. And so just because med school is the famous one or whatever, that doesn't mean that's the job you want to do.
Right.
And you aren't locked into having to do it. But why not investigate these things now? And I know, like, you talk about, you're talking to a student, their eyes light up when they figure these things out. This is what you're able to help do for students. Part of the conversation is you got to figure out what your strengths are, what you'd be good at. You can't start any of this without figuring out what it is you want to do. Right.
Yeah. So you got to have the conversation.
And that's what you help.
And Bobby, I think sometimes what happens is I think there's parent bias that's also happening where they're like, oh my gosh, my kid's not going to school. He's not going to be successful. And it's like, no. Again, there's so many ways to skin this cat. And, every parent I talk to, every one of them, I'm like, what do you want for your kid? Every time, hands down, it's, I just want my kid to be happy. It's almost word for word from everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, if that's where you're at, then let's start having this conversation, because they might not be happy with a career, that they have to go to college to get. They might have a career idea. Like, I'm working with this guy right now, and he's like, Kristin, I just love fixing things with my hands. I love it. And I'm like, wow, have you thought about an electrician, a plumber? And he goes, yes. And I think I'd be really happy doing that. And I'm like, let's go, let's make it happen. But it goes back to, I think, he's 22 years old. And I think I know these ideas, Bobby, are in their heads because they tell me all the time, right? And sometimes they're just afraid to tell mom and dad because we've been talking about college since they were this big.
Well, that really struck me when you said that, because of course every parent will say, I just want my kid to be happy. But translating that to this step of saying, okay, you need to talk about this and make it an actual, like, it's not just, okay, we're going to go, where are we going to go? It's, should you go? What do you want to do? It's hard to translate that because in a lot of our minds, happiness requires going to a 4-year university, right? And no, you have to step back and say, no, that's not, less than what's the percentage of Americans who actually go to university? It's less than half, right? I mean,
no, it's much higher than that. It's actually in the 70% that do go to college, but only 39% graduate.
Oh, okay. That have degrees, right? Okay. So it's less than half that actually have degrees. And many of them are very happy and successful at what they do. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you ask all of them, they would say, I am so glad I didn't go, or I'm so glad I got out and just started doing what I wanted.
Yeah. So again, there's so many pathways to success. And if the success barometer is happiness, and having a happy life, I think that's really where the conversation starts, is what's going to make you happy.
Yeah. And okay. And the other thing too is you're not having this conversation to convince a kid to not go to college. You're having this conversation so that you all know what your goals are and what's going to make you happy and successful. And the chances of going to college and graduating in 4 years with a degree and all of that will be enormously improved if you have this conversation so that you know why you're going. Because, I mean, at least, I certainly had the impression when I was that age that college was, you go to meet people and party and have fun, And then like as a side effect, you also get a degree. It was it was really easy to fall into that attitude. And then when you're like, okay, wait, no, the whole point of this is these goals, right? I think
Yeah,
that's the most important
it is.
takeaway is just have the conversation.
It's have the conversation and be open as a parent, be open to the outcome and
Mhm.
walk in with being open because, our first reaction to any of this, Bobby, is what's going to stick in their mind. And if we walk in and go, well, why
Mhm.
don't you want to go to college? Or why do you want to be a X?
Mhm.
You have to be really cautious and conscious about how you're walking into that conversation yourself. So,
Absolutely. Oh, hey, Darius, thanks for joining us today. Yeah, I appreciate Darius so much because he, helps spread positive messages to to at-risk youth, and I just love what he does here in Dallas, and it's great to have you. And yeah, and I think this is a message that really is the sort of thing that Darius helps talk to students about all the time. Is like, what do you want to do? What's going to make you successful? For some of them, college is a pathway for that. For some of them, there are other pathways, and that's what he helps people figure out. So that's
yeah,
great.
and Bobby, as we talked about, I'd love for his students to get their strengths profile done. I think he would
Oh
love
my
that.
gosh, absolutely, yeah. That's something we need to definitely investigate. I think that'd be great because that really is. I mean, it was so neat when I did that strengths assessment. It showed me, it was so funny that it told me very directly that what I love doing is learning and sharing knowledge, and that there's various careers that would help it would be in that area like the one I have now. And I thought, oh yeah, this thing's a pretty good assessment. I know that's what you start your students with a lot of times, and so that's really, I think that's the key is you got to understand yourself, and a lot of us don't until you investigate things like that. You have to sit down and think about it.
You do, and yeah, you can't express that enough. And I think too, if I would have done this back in high school,
Mhm.
it would have been a game changer,
Oh my gosh,
on
for
how I moved
sure.
forward in life for sure. So one other thing that I'm going to put in the chat, Bobby,
Yeah.
is our college planning timeline.
Oh
Um,
yes.
because, we're having this conversation. The very first thing on this college planning timeline is to explore your ideas on a career path, which will lead you to figuring out if college is the right place, right?
Absolutely.
So I will share that. So then if kiddos are choosing to go to college, they know the steps they need to take to make that happen as well. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, everyone should, if you don't already have that timeline, grab it because it gives you,
ooh, I put in
both
that
things
number.
to think about, but also things to, to, uh, like things to strategically do, things to think about, and active steps to take during every semester, all the way from ninth grade, all the way through college, right? So, all the way through graduation. So,
And
that's a
it,
great thing to do right now.
yeah, and it's 71441. I will go and
Oh,
get that number out of there. Fat fingers. So, all
yep.
right, guys. Thank you so much for all the people that
Absolutely.
joined today. And if you
Yeah,
need any of our help, all of our information is down in the ticker that's going across. So please reach out, ask us any questions you have. We are just here to help. We want to help these kids, and that's really where our heart is.
absolutely. Well, this
Okay.
is great. We'll continue this conversation next week.
All right. Bye, Bobby.
Bye.